Hi, welcome to VYAPT Growth Series Season 3, Episode 17. Our platform promotes authentication of information and brings growth narratives around different sectors of business through leaders. And in our growth series today, we have with us Mr. Shalabh Chaturvedi, MD, India and SAARC, CNH Industrial. Shalabh is a dynamic and visionary leader with proven track record of driving business growth and operational excellence. We will get to know more about him as we proceed further. Join me to welcome Mr. Shalabh Chaturvedi. Namaskar, Shalabh. Welcome to VYAPT Growth
Hello,
Series.
Pankaj. Thank
We
you,
are
and
delighted to
I'm pleased to be here.
have you on our platform, Shalabh, and we are going to have a very interesting session with you, wherein we are going to know around the growth story around the kind of business we have in agriculture and equipment industry. So I'll start with the first curiosity, uh, uh, which is around the growth strategies of this industry. So what growth strategies have been most effective in establishing a strong foothold for the agriculture and construction equipment industry?
Okay, I think from the perspective of India and SAARC countries, uh, one phrase which comes to my mind is the growth strategy is Nirbhar se Atmanirbhar. That is in a short what I would call a growth strategy for many multinationals working in India. Initially, when we started, most of the organizations were dependent on their parent organization in terms of giving the technology, giving the know-how, etc. And then we were trying to, at some point in time, adapt those technologies to the Indian context. However, over the years, people realized that what works there may not work here, and therefore you need to do something which is more localized, more relevant for the Indian market, the context of the part of the subcontinent that we are managing. And from that point of view, I would put the growth strategies in two buckets. One is on the supply side, and the other is on the demand side. So, talking on the supply side, the design of the equipment itself should be suited to the Indian requirements, applications, customers. The soil type of India is different from the soil type, let's say, in other parts of the world, or the type of application, the farm sizes, the various applications that, for example, a backhoe loader does in India is very different from what a backhoe loader would do in other parts of the world. So you need to adapt, and you need to therefore design a product which is for the Indian context, starting from the whiteboard from scratch. Then once you have that design, you need to build a supply chain around that, which is localized, because Indian market usually is very unforgiving if you are not on time delivering to the customer requirement. Also, there is a certain volatility in the market. The market moves quite sharply in various directions, and you need to be prepared with a localized supply chain. So that's the second most important thing on the supply side. On the demand side, you would need to have the right distribution network, the right capillarity, the right product support that you are going to provide to the customers in terms of service, in terms of spare part availability. And then you would also need to have the right financing solutions, because financing would be is a big enabler in India because it's a growing country, and these are very capital intensive equipment that we are manufacturing and selling. So finance becomes a very big enabler, and therefore it works in that way. And then, as an enabler, as a third pillar, is the skill development and training, which is quite important, and then the brand building, on how do you build the brand around the business. So I think these are the two, three things, two, three buckets where I would like to say this to your
Okay,
answer.
okay,
Yeah.
yeah. So if I have to talk around, you just talked around the growth strategy of the this particular equipment industry. and you narrated two to three things from the supply side as well as from the demand side, and and it has been it really, we see that there are a lot of things which is in pipeline for us for the kind of growths we are looking at. That's really exceptional. But looking from also from the sustainable business growth point of view, okay, not just limiting to only growth, how can we drive sustainable business growth, and are there any emerging technologies that you foresee driving growth?
So, a sustainable business growth, I mean, first, a disclaimer. Case construction is present since 1842. So, we know a little bit about sustainable business growth. We have been there for nearly 2 centuries now. And for us, the way we pride ourselves is that we call ourselves the experts for the real world in the true context. So, and the real world is where the customer is on the ground doing his job, and you need to be close to the customer. So, I think customer centricity is the one main thing that drives the sustainability of any business. The moment you get disengaged or distanced from the customer, uh, with various layers of channel that you have in between, that is where you start losing touch with the reality. So, customer centricity, I would say, and at the risk of repeating, is the main driver for a sustainable business growth. The other thing is, again, the product design. Product design which suits the requirements of the customer, not a product design which is designed elsewhere and you are trying to just copy paste or adapt in your context, but you design it keeping the customer in mind. And since you also mentioned about technology, so for example, in India, the biggest import item for India as a country is the crude oil, and we spend most of our foreign exchange reserves in buying crude oil, and which is a very very high sensitive matter for an Indian customer. That kind of makes or breaks the economics of not only just an equipment but also the households in general. And therefore most of the new technologies that we have built in on our equipment is from a design perspective are also those which minimize the fuel consumption of the machine or optimizes the fuel efficiency, in different words. uh, this could be through technology such as electrohydraulics, which in our part of the world is a new technology, is a new concept, a new innovation. But when we talk to our Western counterparts, they would say that, I mean, but India is still a developing country. Why would you need electrohydraulics? But the point is that the Indian customer is, in my perspective, is not a price sensitive customer. Is not, unlike the Western belief. In my view, India is a very value sensitive customer, and the customers are willing to pay as long as they are getting the right value out of that.
True.
And from that point of view, I feel that even bringing in sometimes a little more expensive technology, which eventually delivers a much better value to the customer. So, for example, electrohydraulics and fuel consumption is still, there are still many many takers for those kind of technologies. Then, apart from that, you need to have an operational efficiency for a sustainable business growth. You need to put your house in order, your kitchen in order. You need to run your factories with the principles of lean manufacturing, reducing waste as much as possible at each and every step. So that makes it a very important pillar as an enabler uh, for the manufacturing process. Then also your supply chain, your suppliers, what kind of ecosystem they have. Are they following ethical practices? Are they engaging in any kind of predatory employment practices, or not having the right skill set or right age of employees? Or what kind of, let's say, environmental footprint that they have in their supply chain? Also in our factories, how much of our energy bill, for example, we are able to source through solar instead of depending on the grid. So these are the things which go towards making your business bulletproof. No matter what happens in the market, as long as you are keeping your house in a tight leash, things usually fall in place. So that in my view, is starting from customer and then building your entire narrative around that.
So you talked around a sustainable future for this particular business, and this business has been over, more than 100 years. It's been into existence for the group. Uh, Looking at one piece of how the economy grows is around the job creation, or job creation by different companies in wherever they have their manufacturing units or otherwise. And I'm sure this is one, employment is one such piece wherein every country of the world today is wants to talk and wants to generate some employment for their people, whatever the country be, across length and breadth and geographies of the entire world. So my next question is around opportunities creating for masses. So looking at the diverse market you cater to, and how crucial do you consider the adaptation of localization of manufacturing to generate further employment? And there's a sub question which is attached to it, is are there any specific advancements in the technology or otherwise any other fields which would contribute to the further success of this industry?
Okay, so actually, both the parts, the main question and the sub part, are related to each other, and you'll understand as I would flow through the question. Uh, from from an employment generation point of view, localization is a very important pillar. Uh, but not only employment, localization also wards you from any, let's say, geopolitical or a global fluctuation or volatility that may come. We live in a VUCA world, and the things are becoming even more dynamic. I mean, we all saw the semiconductor crisis, which happened 2, 3 years ago, and how everyone grappled with the availability of semiconductor across all automotive spectrum, even all electronic spectrum, on how do you secure the semiconductors to make your supply chain more robust. The same applies for many other uh, streams as well. So, localization is in the best interest of any business in India. You need to have your supply chain as much localized as possible. As a benefit to that, you also generate employment because you are engaging mostly with the MSME suppliers in India. Usually, the supply chain in India have been historically more of an opportunistic supply chain, because
Mhm.
where Western suppliers are looking at India as a best cost country, looking at some low cost suppliers to become sub suppliers to them, and then start feeding the supply chain. What we started seeing now recently, and we have been a big propagator of that, to make strategic supply chain a part of India or centered in India. This way, you develop Indian MSMEs to come on the global scale, on the global platform, and generate, not only generate employment here, but serve the markets all over the world. When you serve markets all over the world, your sensitivity to quality, to delivery, to timeliness, these are the things which improve dramatically, which also benefits the Indian customers of yours. So I think it's a win-win situation when you encourage your supply chain to become a global supply chain, starting from India and building the MSME ecosystem. The other side is on, again, on the demand side. The availability of skilled operator is becoming a big challenge for the industry, because usually many young people today are not interested in job which require the hands to get dirty, to go inside the machine, fix the machine, make your hands dirty in grease, things like that. But these are the wheels of the economy. If you don't do that, the economy starts dysfunctioning, and therefore it's important that we also pay attention on the demand side. So what we do as a part of our social responsibility, as a corporate social responsibility, we engage in a lot of skilling initiatives. So we pick up kids who are, let's say, unable to finish their schooling, their matriculation, for various reasons, economic reason, motivation reason, things like that, and we kind of train them in a way that they become skilled operators, or skilled at, let's say, technical, and they necessarily need not become an operator. Eventually they could go into various organizations, manufacturing sector, as a blue collar employee, or on the shop floor and contributing towards the manufacturing processes. So those are the kind of things which we have been doing a lot on the CSR front. We are also engaging with the National Skill Development Council or Indian Infrastructure Equipment Skill Council (IISC) to certify these operators and make them more and more suitable for the job on the demand side. So this also generates a lot of employment. Now, where does the technology fit in? As the machines are becoming more sophisticated, they are getting more and more electronics in the machines. India is also on a journey for the emissionization. Today, for construction equipment, we are stage 4 or Euro 4 emission norms. And next year, 1st of January, we will move to Euro 5 emission norms. Even North America is at 4 level, is today at the same level as us. Next year, we will be even more advanced than USA or most of the world, except for European Union. We will become at par with them in terms of our emissionization. Now, with this emissionization, it helps sustainability because you are the vehicles, the equipment are emitting lesser emissions, carbon monoxide, nitrogen oxide, things like that. But it also makes the engines, the overall equipment, much more complicated and sophisticated. And therefore, getting the right skilled manpower or right skilled technician to fix those machines in the field is becoming even a greater challenge. So it's a double whammy that we are dealing with. So for that, there is a technological intervention that we do. We are putting, let's say, for example, telematics in the machine. Telematics remotely tells you what kind of errors the machine is generating. So, for example, if a machine is running on a high coolant temperature, as an example, so you would know sitting remotely that a machine working on a site which is, let's say, 400 kilometers away, the coolant temperature is high. You might want to slow down or replace the coolant, things like that. So you can start doing that as an assistant to a semi-skilled operator or a semi-skilled technician. So that is where technology is coming in place, where you try to bridge the skill gap by making the machine a little more intelligent. So that's how it flows.
Okay, so you talked around specific advancements around the technology, and you're bullish around the kind of employment the industry is going to generate, not just directly, but many also serve as an indirect employment for many people.
Yeah.
After this, we come up with another round called as flip round, wherein guest becomes host and host becomes guest. So you can ask a question to me, has to be answered in 30 seconds time.
Okay. The question could take 30 seconds, but then the answer can take another 30 seconds. So the question is that when I got to know about VYAPT, Pankaj, I was very intrigued because uh, VYAPT, usually you hear about the big three, the big four firms in the consulting space, and usually they try to make their entire narrative around the global practices that they bring to India. But when I looked up at VYAPT, I realized that we also have our homegrown alternative who can uh, who can bridge this requirement gap in the industry, where we depend upon a lot of other consulting organizations which are more of multinational nature. So, what sets your consulting firm different from the others in the industry? With that context, I would like to understand how is VYAPT differentiated from rest of them?
That's a wonderful question, Shalabh, and I wish it could have taken more time. But since the constraint is around 30 seconds, so I will try to answer as much as possible. So when you talk about a growth consulting, organization primarily based out of India, we understand our country better. We understand the needs of our people better. That's one. Second important part, we are not just strategy or growth consultants, we are also the implementation providers. So
Mhm.
in all your success and failures, we go hand in hand. Okay, so it's not just a piece of strategy or an work which has been on paper and just left out. It's also about implementing, and that's where our fee is also structured. How we help in terms of our clients for the consulting. Second important part is, with our experience in this consulting industry for the last 15 years, and we have served a lot of clients in India and also their subsidiaries in foreign lands. What we have found out is that today every company is looking at some kind of consulting work, but at the same point of time they're looking at, can this consulting firm be a long term partner for me, and can it help me in terms of achieving whatever I want, in the context of their core competencies. I think that's where the gap is, and that's where VYAPT comes into picture. More than that, for into the consulting space, over 76 years of independence, India have not seen a consulting firm from India rising to a great extent like that of European or American companies and consulting firm. I'm sure they are doing some pretty good stuff, but there lies a gap wherein an Indian consulting firm definitely, going globally, can help firms. I hope this has answered your question.
Very well did. Thank you, Pankaj.
Thank you so much, Shalabh, for asking this question. You have been phenomenal in sharing the growth story of this industry, and around what could be the technological advancements, the innovations coming in, the sustainability, also the kind of employment this particular sector would generate. One question which coming to you as a leader, Shalabh, you are inspiration for many, including me, for the kind of work you have done in the past and the kind of work which you're doing with your current organization. A lot of challenges and a lot of opportunities as well. Uh, can you uh, can you narrate an incident? I'm sure you must be having many, but can you narrate an incident which has been a source of incredible learning for you?
Okay. So, yeah, that's a difficult one, Pankaj, because, like you said, there are many, and maybe I would try to answer it this way. About 15 years ago, I was a sales manager selling construction equipment from Bombay to Goa on the Konkan belt. And I used to, we did not have dealers at that point in time, and I used to go door to door trying to sell construction equipment. And many a times, I mean, as a young engineer, I would try to go and sell technically, etc. That this is the product, this is how it will help you solve your application, etc. And then, to some extent, I realized that there is a certain segment of customers, let's say, which are a rental operator, and they are not really comparing your product with other products. For them, this is a instrument of investment. So I have, for example, back then it was 20 lakhs, in current context 30 lakhs for a loader backhoe ballpark. If I have 20 lakh rupees, I would invest it in a fixed deposit, generating, let's say, 7% or a 6% interest rate. I invest in gold, generating, depending upon the international gold market, maybe a 8 9%, something like that. I invest in mutual funds, getting 10 11%. I invest in equity, 13 14%. Or, and each comes with its own share of risk. uh, or do I invest in an equipment and buy, let's say, a loader backhoe, and use a loader backhoe as an investment instrument and not really as a product that we were trying to sell? So this is again a point where the customer centricity comes into picture. You need to understand what your customer is really looking for. Is he looking for a product to solve a problem, or he's looking for a product to solve a different problem which is not related to what you are trying to sell? And I learned it the hard way. And to a certain set of customers, I started to sell low tobaccos as a instrument of investment. And I used to not compare with any other make or solving the application. We used to discuss in terms of ROI, that a low tobacco would generate you, let's say, a 10% or a 12% ROI per year. So you invest 20 lakhs or 30 lakhs and you get 10%, which is better than a fixed deposit, or better than, and it's a fairly safe instrument because low tobacco also has a salvage value, a resale value. And so knowing your customer and then pitching your product, solving the need of the customer, I feel is extremely important. Sometimes the need of the customer is not apparent to our biased eye. We try to look at things the way we have been trained or based on our inherent biases. But when you really start listening to the customers, is when you realize that the customer's problem might be something totally unrelated, and you could be solving that problem. I mean, take example of Southwest Airline in North America. When they started, their main competitor was the bus service, who they were competing against. They were not competing against other airlines. It was the same situation which I experienced firsthand. That a low tobacco in many markets, in many segments, does not compete with other products. It competes with other financial instruments. And that I feel was a great learning of customer centricity, and then I took it from there.
That's a wonderful share, Shalabh. It also talks, how keen you are in terms of understand. You were in terms of understanding the business and taking the fine thin lines and how these thin lines can be associated. I'm sure this is a great learning for all our viewers, and especially the student segment definitely would like to move forward and reach great heights in various sectors of business wherever their interest lies. So thank you so much, Shala, for this, and thank you for taking your time to to come here and spend some time with us at VYAPT Growth Series. It's always a delight and pleasure to speak with you every time. As I said, I have always been a key admirer and a keen admirer of what you do, and I wish all success to you, and you continue doing the same thing, as you move ahead and helping India and other nations prosperous by the kind of work you do. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Thanks a lot, Pankaj. It's always a pleasure, and it's completely mutual, the admiration we have. And I wish all the best to VYAP to become a global consulting firm born in India, out of India, and then solving the problems not only for India but for the world. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Salah. Namaskar.
Namaskar.